In this video, I'm going to turn a sort of hello world Android activity, a sort of empty. So I have an empty views activity that's just hello world at this point, and I'm going to turn it into sort of an old-fashioned multiple activity. So I'm going to be, in addition to this main activity, which right now just says hello world, I'm going to add other activities. So my main activity is just going to be sort of a launch into other activities. And my example is going to be depreciation. So I'm going to have sort of two different types of depreciation. And so from main activity, you'll be able to move to the different activities, the different styles of depreciation. Okay, so here we go. And I have a lot of the code. I'm not going to type live code. I'm going to paste a lot of things in, but I wanted to start sort of with just an empty activity. But again, it's an empty views activity, so there's an activity main XML. So no compose here. All right, so I want to add to this main activity two other activities. So I'm going to right-click up here and say new activity, and then I'm working with views activities. Again, no compose, so I want an empty views activity. And then this one's going to be, I'll say straight line. I'll stop it. Don't spell out depreciation all the way because I'll probably misspell it. Straight line depreciation is one type of depreciation. And that added a class up here, straight line depreciation, and it added an XML to the layout. And it also did something to the manifest, but I'm going to add another one before I show you what happens to the manifest. So another right click, another new, another activity, empty views activity, and this one I'll do double declining, a different method of the depreciation. Okay, so again, it added another class. It added another layout down here. Okay, and it connected that set content view. It's connecting the class to the layout. All right, so I want to show you next, I think, the manifest. I'm going to use the main activity to move to the other activities, and then I'm going to use a bar to go back. And the sort of natural, just the simple to sort of back code will come if the main activity is seen as the parent. So I want to, in the manifest, sort of say that. So now I have my application you see in the manifest, and it has a double declining, a straight line, and a main activity. And it's saying that the main activity is the launcher and the main. But I want to add to the other two that the main activity is their parent. So I have, again, a number of things already sort of pre-made. And here's the one I want. This Android parent activity is the main activity. So I'm going to add that to my other two activities. So double declining has a parent of main activity, and same thing for straight line. So that's going to do my sort of back. When I'm over in straight line depreciation, I'll just hit a back and it will know to take me to main activity. And then, okay. And I'm doing this an old-fashioned way, which you will see. Okay. So what else? So now I want to paste in some of, that was the manifest. I think I'm done with the manifest. Let's do the XML for the main activity, which is just two buttons leading to the others. So I'm going to paste that in here, two buttons. leading to the others. And straight line has places. They're going to say, here's depreciation. They're going to say, here's the initial value of something, here's the salvage value of something, here's the number of years I want to talk about it, and then I'll display what I'm just simply calling a depreciation schedule. So this is the straight line. Just saving, you guys watch me type. And double declining depreciation. Did I just overwrite the main? I think I just overwrote the main because now I need to find where I have that. Here's my two buttons. They go in main. I'm in main. Two buttons move on to straight line. Move on to straight line here. Move over to code. Do that. And then I want activity double declining and the code for activity double declining. And let's have a peek at those in design. So two buttons in my main. Places to enter the initial value, salvage value, and number of years in straight line, and double declining should be the sort of same basic design. Okay. And I have probably heights that aren't big enough. It's complaining here about something, but I'm not going to worry about it for now. I got enough to deal with. Okay. So that was the XMLs. Hopefully I've dealt with them correctly now. And let's start off with the main activity code. I'm relating to my interface, getting two buttons, and then giving myself new intents. And I have to make sure that I named the classes the same, because here you see the code intent straight line. I'm going to the straight line to DPR. So I did name them the same in double declining DPR. So I would get, so I'm going to copy, let me just copy the interior here. I usually copy the whole thing, and that's easy when it's main activity to overwrite it, but I want to be a little bit more careful today. And so I'm just, what did I copy? After, so all the new stuff. So I'm not overwriting anything. I'm just pasting in some new stuff. Yes. And I have some things not, some Alt-Enter, some things not imported. Because I didn't paste over the imports. And okay, here I called it double declining. So I didn't give it the same name before. Previously, I'd called it double declining without the DPR. Now put in the DPR. Okay. So this should be allow me to move to the others. Let's give that a whirl. See if I can move in one direction. Then I got to see if I can move back and then give it its actual function. So can I move to straight line depreciation? Actually, double declining was the one I screwed up, so that's the better test. And now I'm to this other sheet, which is about double declining. Okay, I should probably have some text view announcing what it is. Okay. So there we go. We have this one direction moving from the main activity to the other activity. And now I would like to move back. So that was my main activity. So here's my, let's go to the straight line here. And what do I want to do here? First, I have a bunch of stuff. Should I just copy it all? I think I will. But make sure I have the same straight line depreciation. Straight line depreciation. I don't want to overwrite the name of that class. I got to be careful with double declining because I have that problem there. But so I don't want to copy. I called it the project thank you next to the last time, so I don't want the package, but I'm going to try and copy everything else. And it doesn't seem to be complaining. And let me do the same for double declining, but my name was double declining DPR for depreciation. I hope that's the only change I needed. And not the package. So where's double declining? Paste. And oh, the activity is the class and the layout are named together. So that I had to change that name in the class and in the XML. Let's save it one more time, run it one more time, and make sure I can still get over to double declining. I can get over to no. Messed it up. Double declining 31. It doesn't like my 31. Ah, the action bar. Okay. So now we have to start playing the action bar game. Okay. So, and that's right, because I had no code before. This code wasn't there to fail the last time when I just had a shell of a class, but now that I have the actual class, this is the sort of the old-fashioned way of going back, and I'm still going to use it, and it requires an action bar. And it's the action bar is not something that you create in XML, it's added in code, and here's the code sort of to say I have it, but it's sort of not happening. And that is because of my theme. I just got the default theme, and here the default theme these days is a no action bar theme. So it's theme material 3 day night, but it's saying we don't like action bars. So I'm going to say for this project, yes, I do. And so now let's see if that solved our problem. So let me go over to double declining. And here's now that bar, the action bar, with now a title, double declining depreciation, and I can go back to main, and straight line had the same code and back. So that was the main stuff about the multiple activity. So I had, again, right-clicked, added an activity with an empty views activity that created the class and the layout, and name them sort of correspondingly. And then I needed to edit the manifest, this back property that we just had on the action bar, also required this parent activity. So that gave us, that was like half of the going back equation, and then the other half, well, maybe there are thirds. One third is the Android manifest, another third is the theme. Make sure that you're allowing action bars in the theme, and then the third part was the actual code to say, I want an action bar, it's going to have a title, and then this set display home as up enabled. That's the actual sort of back functionality. Okay. And then everything else is just sort of normal activities. Let's see, one thing here is that who am I on? Double declining. And I have like ET initial value. And then on straight line depreciation, I also have, I lost my project, ET initial value. So I can have the same IDs on different XMLs over here because they are, the set content view is telling me sort of where to look for the IDs here. All right, so now let me just talk a little bit about what this does. I'm going to, let me do straight line depreciation. I have some values, and I'm going to start off with, what was that, 40,000 initial value. I'm going down to 2,000. My lifetime is 7. And this is the depreciation schedule. A little bit of rounding on my floats here. I should be exactly at 2,000. Okay, so I just figure out how much to subtract each year. And in straight line, it's the same amount each year. And I can change this. Maybe I start with 80,000. Maybe the salvage value is 3,000. Maybe I'm going to hold on to it for 9 years. And then here is this new schedule. But I changed these numbers. I just made them up on the fly, 80,039. And now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go over to double declining, and it knows what I wrote, 80,003 and 6. And I used shared preferences to do that. So I'm just going to review a little bit shared preferences and also this basic functionality here. So this was the new part. This was the multi-action part. I have connect to the interface. I have some other things other than on create. I have like an on resume, and then something that's outside of another thing that's outside of on create. So I have some of my edit texts declared outside of on create. So it's going to make them sort of, I can't initialize them here, but I can declare them here, and then they will be accessible to other parts of the code outside of on create. So I will initialize in on create, but declaring them up here allows me to sort of have more access to them. And so I have to say late init because it wants to initialize it right away, and I'm not doing that. So I announce that with late init. So I have just some basic variables up here. I'm using shared preferences. So shared preferences help you remember sort of from one running to another one, but they can also help you share information between, say, one activity and another, or one fragment and another. And that's how I'm using it here. These are just some of the initial, the salvage, and the life, the sort of basic variables of depreciation. I declared them at this sort of class level. There's the action bar we talked about. These are more specific things, the button and the schedule. And here is the actual initialization connecting my code to the interface. And I'm adding change listeners, and I called it schedule clear. And so they all do the same thing. If you change any number, then I'm clearing out the schedule. So I made, instead of writing that over and over again, I wrote it once and they all call it. So that was here. Here's my shared preference. So I set up a shared preference for the shared preference editor, so I can write things, and the shared preference so I can get things. I am getting the initial values, so I'm starting up, and I'm getting the initial value from shared preference if it exists, and if not, there's my 40,000, 2007, those initial values. And I am putting those values into the interface. And then here's click the button for the schedule. The user might have changed it. So get what's in the initial, the salvage, and the life, and it's text, but convert to string and then to float. And life was, I'm assuming, an integer. And then here's the calculation, initial minus salvage divided by life. That's the amount you subtract. And you loop through and you just keep subtracting the value. And I'm posting it up in what I call a schedule. Then I am writing my initial salvage and life value into my shared preferences, and I'm applying. So like a commit in a database, it doesn't actually happen unless you apply. Okay, what's on resume? So if I'm coming back to this thing somehow, I'm going to the shared preferences and getting the values. So if they've just typed but not run a schedule, because running the schedule is what writes puts the things in the shared preferences. If they've just changed the values without running, those won't be saved. But if they run and therefore wrote to the shared values, which is like a cookie, then those will be written. But again, here are the defaults. If there were nothing, here are the defaults, and put them on the page. So that's my resume, and here was my shared clear. Double declining is the same except for the calculation. So all the same. Shared preferences, writing them, getting them, writing them, having defaults. The only thing different in double declining is it's a different depreciation calculation. And so that's here, you calculate 2 over the lifetime is something I'm calling fraction, and then you get the depreciation amount by multiplying the value times the fraction, but that keeps changing. And so whereas straight line, it was always the same difference every year, in double declining, you depreciate a lot in the beginning and less as you go, and that's supposed to sort of be maybe a better representation of value, but that's also depends what's best for the accountants is probably what they'll do. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you, sort of an old-fashioned multi-activity thing, and also an app using a main activity, which just leads to the other activities, the ability to go back. I had to bring back the action bar that was being blocked by themes. I had to edit the manifest to make main activity the parent of the other 2 activities. That helped me going back. The themes was blocking me from having this action bar, so I changed my theme. I was right-clicking and adding a new empty views activity. That's the kind of activity that has the old-fashioned layout, and that, in other words, no compose. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you on this one. Thanks for your attention.